You started the conversation on a really optimistic note, which I thought was nice about the VC world. And I've heard a lot of VCs and entrepreneurs say things like, VCs are still currently risk averse for a VC and investing, later and later stage, even if they weren't originally that sort of style of a VC, and that it's creating this funding gap for young companies. It sounds like you almost kind of disagree with that, and that you feel more optimistic about things in early stage VC. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't feel that. I think that partially because I am a VC, right? So my view is there's too much money out there, right? And because that's who I compete with. I compete with money, right? So I would like to see there be less VCs, and but the entrepreneurs are always going to see that there's not enough VC out there, right? That funding gap, I don't see it. The entrepreneur sees it. So I think that part of it is maybe just where I sit in the food chain. But I will tell you that I am seeing so many new people show up who are interested in writing checks, either as angels or as newly formed seed and early stage funds, not just here in New York, but even in Silicon Valley and in other places around the world, frankly. So I don't buy that. I think it's not an accurate representation of where we are. I do think that there are a whole swath of traditional VCs who have moved up the food chain and are not interested in taking the kind of risks that that early stage and seed investors take, and so if people look at them, they'll have a perspective about that. But I don't think it's really accurate if you really are in the market every day and competing, for deals. And I think that there's certainly, we haven't made an investment in a long time where we didn't face competition from other firms. So that feels to me like there's plenty of money around.
What sort of things would you like to see from maybe the bigger institutions in New York to make New York even stronger from an entrepreneurship perspective? Like, whether it be business and law schools or the mayor's office or whatever.
I think, it's, when I was growing up in New York, the state of New York spent a bunch of money on an ad campaign to promote tourism, for people to come to New York, and that's the kind of thing I think the city needs to do in and around the sector. Meaning, we need cheerleading, we need marketing, we need people pounding the table saying this is the next big sector in New York. I don't think we need incubators. I don't think we need real estate. I don't think we need. I don't think we need pools of government capital. I think we need people cheerleading the sector. It's unfortunate. The mayor is a technology entrepreneur, one of the great technology entrepreneurs of the second half of the 20th century. Bloomberg LP is up there with Oracle and Cisco and Sun and a lot of great technology companies. But unfortunately, the mayor doesn't see himself as a technology entrepreneur. He sees himself as a Wall Street guy. And so his world is hanging out and rubbing shoulders with the chairman and CEO of Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan. And, he doesn't really care that much about the technology business. If Larry Ellison was the mayor of New York, or if, Eric Schmidt was the mayor of New York, we'd see the mayor of New York at every New York Tech meetup. And, I think we would see a different attitude about our industry, at the highest levels of government, which we don't have today. It's not that we need them to give us money. It's not that we need them to give us tax breaks. I think we just need them to be promoting the sector more. And a good example of that is the thing I was talking about before. I want to put together something called. I want to put together a week-long period in probably January. Unfortunately, it's not the nicest time to be in New York, but I want to bring the top computer science grads from the top East Coast schools to New York for a week. Put them up somewhere, have a party every single night, and during the day have companies, startup companies, have the opportunity to interview them to work here in New York, and compete with Google and Microsoft and Cisco and the big tech companies who are out there recruiting those young kids coming out of Harvard and MIT and Princeton and Columbia and NYU and other schools, and they're trying to get them all to move to Silicon Valley. And my view is, why would you, and I said this before, why would you want to go work in an office park and live in suburbia if you're 21 years old when you could live in Williamsburg? And so I think we got to make that case. That's a marketing job. That's not anything else than a marketing job. And so I think the city will help if we do it, but I don't see the city leading the charge on stuff like that. So that's my view. We just gotta want this industry like they want finance, like they want publishing, like they want media, like they want advertising, and if they behave that way, I think that will create a lot of positive energy for the sector and help the sector grow more quickly.
As a related question, is there a conversation even started with the city around that, or?
No. The city actually, there's a really good guy who works for the EDC named Steven Strauss who gets this, and he's our liaison, and I call him up and I say, we need this, and he's always willing to help. But I'll give you an example. I mean, this is how messed up it is. There is only one public high school in New York City that has a computer science program. That's Stuyvesant High School. One. And yet the graduates of that program's been around since '95. Graduates of that program are star programmers at Google, at Microsoft, at Apple. So, and it makes sense. You think about it, right? The public school system in New York, you're talking about Eastern European immigrants, you're talking about Asian immigrants, you're talking about Indian immigrants, you're talking about Latin American immigrants coming to the city, and no doubt some subset of those kids who can only afford to go to the public school system are brilliant. And yet only one of our public high schools in the city bothers to run a computer science program. Some of those kids could bypass college, frankly, and go right into the workforce. I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing really that college can help you. I mean, yeah, you could go to a great CS program at like Carnegie Mellon or MIT. Is that where you went?
Yeah.
But but I know a lot of great developers who never went to college, and so I think the city should do that. And I think we should have that program that they have at Stuyvesant in the 10 or 12 top math and science high schools in the city. And when you talk to the Board of Education about it, it's not, as far as I know, even on their top 10 priorities. And they still have wood shop. I mean, there's nothing against wood shop, but I just don't get that.
We're building from steel anyway.
Excuse me?
We're building from steel anyway.
Exactly.